not have a problem trying to find a means to an end, where Oxygen most definitely does. It starts right now for them in this ban phase. What can they possibly get done on Consulate to bounce back out of loser's bracket?
Let's take a look. Well, DarkZero is going to potentially like target ban a little bit there, but there is also some legitimate reason to why you might want to do this. Hibana is going to get knocked out here as the first ban. Oxygen's response to that is going to be to knock out Nomad, which has been a pretty common one that we've been seeing on Consulate matches as of late.
And two very strong bans. That Hibana ban coming in, it can be for a myriad of different reasons. Hibana's extremely potent. She's the hatch queen. That's what we've called her for a long time. And now she's off the board, they're not going to have as easy of access to a lot of those hatches that they're going to want to pop. This could be actually a big play here from DarkZero, strictly based on how they're going to play the map from their defensive side, that they're going to reinforce a lot of hatches, and they don't want them to have access to Hibana because of that. If they only have access to Maverick, Thermite, as well as Ace, they're going to have to expend so much utility to try and get these hatches open.
It could have been a slight target ban against Bio as well, because hasn't Bio been pulling out a bunch of crazy plays specifically on Hibana today more than anything else?
But she's just not a fragging operator.
Yeah,
like if they want him to, you know,
it's just weird because we've seen him specifically frag out there. So you're probably right. It's probably much more to do with the hatch. I just thought that was kind of interesting that it lined up a bit with the play from Bio earlier. But like I said, you're probably correct.
No, I like yours more. We'll go with yours.
Mine's more interesting for the storyline, you know? Mine's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh, they had the target ban, and I'm like
yeah, I'm always born. I'm like, no, that's not it. Strategic value, John.
We're gonna go to a lobby defense. Interestingly enough, here for DarkZero, Consulate's been a bit of a weird egg recently here when it comes to the site poll, just because teams are still kind of open on their choice for where they want to go. So it's really any one of the three that we can start out on between this one, split site, and the basement. Second floor, to a certain extent, has started to fall off a little bit. We're not seeing that one as much anymore, although it still gets picked sometimes first on a rare occasion every now and again too.
Well, there's a reason that you don't see Consulate too much anymore, and it's because of exactly that. The site triangle in this map, for lack of a better term, sucks. It is not fun to play. I mean, like, you have access to lobby, basement, and then what? What are you going to go play? Everyone goes to play split because it just so happens to be a better site than console, office, and projector. So they instead go to split, but even then we see so many teams struggle with that. Consulate overall is a map that's a teeter-totter back and forth. You can really never predict how this map's going to go, and I guess that's what I like inside of this series. I mean, we've already had some unpredictability with how these two teams are going to line up. Why not go to Consulate and, you know, really throw it through the ringer and see what we can possibly come out with on the other side?
Especially when you consider DZ's overall success that they've had on these more strat heavy maps, and that success is going to start right from the beginning of the map. 2 kills for them, although there is a plant going on that I'm not sure if they're aware of. It won't really matter much ultimately though, as they're still winning all of the gunfight. This is the weirdest round I have ever spectated here, as everyone is going to get knocked out. We still end up with one attacker remaining here that can play this in post plant, and that's going to be Vert. But man, I don't even know how to cast this. It's so weird. Hyper kills Vert, and DarkZero win out that round on a retake. Stokes, over to you. But try to break that down.
All right, so here we go. They went for a Hail Mary smoke inside of lobby. Not a bad play at all, especially because Slash not only got the case down, but he got outside and also killed Foxy, who was trying to rotate out through the double. The main issue was for Oxygen is that all of the other kills happened damn near immediately, and now they no longer have the man count to have anyone safely get off the roof or any other angles that they were playing with that case now down on the ground. So DZ start the defuse. Obviously, Vertical has to try and make a play, and then Hyper does what Hyper does best. He jumps out a window and he kills somebody. So Vertical dies, and Oxygen end up losing the round. But one of the weirdest rounds, I will definitely echo that I have ever seen in my entire life.
So it's such a weird one, right? Because like both teams are making their play at the exact same time, and it's just like you're looking at it, they're like, wait, this plan is going down. The plan is working, but they're all dying. It was just such a weird turn of events there, but ultimately serves into the favor of DarkZero. They'll take very solid control over that lobby hold and quickly move downstairs into the basement for their next one. Now Oxygen unfortunately gonna have to go back to the drawing board with that one if they want to try it again.
Yeah, for some reason all I can think of is, you know, like Slash being like, you know, Solid Snake inside of the cardboard box inside of that smoke, just sitting there planting the diffuser.
There's a massive exclamation point over his head while that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And then Fox runs in, it's like budding, like exclamation point. For anyone that hasn't played Metal Gear Solid, I'm so sorry. But anyways, we're gonna be headed downstairs now. Basement set up for DarkZero, but it seems as though they still want to dedicate some semblance of a roam here. We have clips dedicated to the Vigil, and actually this has been a discussion point back and forth with a lot of professional players recently about Vigil. He got kind of a weird buff where his scan actually like transitions differently through the flooring, so it actually seems as though he's a lot closer than he actually is.
We'll see how that change-up will potentially affect the outcome on this round. Either way, Hyper is on a hunt for quite a few of those drones right now, so it's going to be difficult to spot on Eclipse here anyway, but it is a solid start for Slash and the rest of OXG as he's able to take out Hot and Cold, and as far as we can see so far, it's for free with no conceivable trade coming up here from anybody else. Although Slash might be biting out a bit much more than he can chew. However, that's not going to be the case. He wins out a second gunfight here, takes down Skies. Probably not going to be able to take any more as he's at literally 1 HP now, but still some great openers here from Slash and the rest of OXG.
Yeah, Slash has eclipsed the age of 23, so they'll have to put him to hard support now. He's no longer allowed to shoot anyone, so he'll be at the back of the field for the time being. Hyper, though, gets a nice pick onto Biologic, and it was a necessity in this time for them to battle back. Oxygen cannot be allowed to have this much map control, nor these amount of picks, but it's more of the picks that they have rather than the map control. DarkZero still have all of that, practically the king in the castle at this point. Mint still locking down the garage as well. So for Oxygen, this mostly looks like a one-front attack. No one really adjusting anywhere. We still have a lot of utility being dedicated. They do have smoke grenades, though, that you can utilize on Slash. And for right now, that seems to be the main game plan.
We're still at early days within this round, too. There's still a little over a minute left, so this might not be the full game plan from Oxygen. They might be trying to set something else up, but as you were saying, like, there is nothing else apparent at this point. So it is a very one-sided attack right now for Oxygen if they are going to commit to this, which seems to be the case. Smoke's out as well. They're going to try to flush it through, but Eclipse still has piano control. He gets one for free, takes the next duel at Vending, but will lose that to Laxing. Unfortunately, the on-site presence has failed in a big way. Hyper found another kill against Vert. The kit is no longer under their control either, as that diffuser sits outside. Someone's going to have to go back and get that. Hopefully, they'll be able to accomplish that with relative ease, but they don't have access to the building, and even more unfortunate here, one of the two players that's alive is at literally 1 HP. They're going to have to try and find a way to get past this. They know the smoke is sitting behind that shield for certain now, but Laxing has been forced out. So again, Slash can't really make a play because that can happen. He can just get taken down by a single shot. Everything's going to have to fall to Laxing here now in the 1v2, and he's only got 12 seconds to make it happen. A promising start, it seemed, based on the aim there against Hyper, but not to be made. Hyper wins it yet again, and DarkZero take control.
Oh, Oxygen are practically falling apart at the seams right now. I mean, they get the 2 early picks, but they don't transition that into anything. Funny enough, this is actually reminding me a lot of how Tempo was trying to handle things inside of that TSM game that Kickstar and I ended up commentating. Like, they just kind of sat outside garage the entire time. And for Oxygen, like, that wasn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, simply because they got those 2 early picks, but they just simply waited and withered away. That was it. They just slowly died as they peaked angles, and DZ were able to keep them out of the building for the most part. Even when they did have those other members of Oxygen split off and try and go to other areas of the map, it was quickly dispatched, and all of a sudden there's no greener pasture. You have to sit at the garage and lie in the bed that you've made. So for Oxygen now, it's back to that drawing board. They need to try and get this figured out. DarkZero are just all over them when it comes to practically anything at this point. Hyper's being allowed to do mostly anything on console. The guy's been an animal so far. Best map from him, I do believe today, all except for that 19 bomb that he dropped earlier. But great start from him nonetheless.
So coming down to the final seconds of the prep phase here for DarkZero. Still a couple things to be set up both on the top and basement floors here. This is a bit more of a complex type of play that our defenders will have to bring to the table if they want to find success here. They're basically going to make a little defender sandwich to a certain extent, as they'll maintain top floor control over an admin, trying to prevent the attackers from getting that, while also having a lot of players stacked up or at least prepared to fall back to the basement. As you can see there with those 3 nitro cells, there's quite a bit of a capability for the defenders to deny plants if they just focus most of their efforts on the basement site and try to force the attackers to take the higher one.
And this is practically a mimic of what we've seen from DarkZero in the past inside of this series. Just very widespread map control and try and dwindle down Oxygen on the timer. But Oxygen have completely circumnavigated this. They've went all the way downstairs. They're pressuring Garage, but it seems as though DarkZero knows this. More than likely had early intel on those drones. Now Sky's adjusting. He goes inside of Tellers here. Oxygen forcing their way from west to east across all fronts. We also have some T2 pressure as well coming in here. So these DarkZero members upstairs allowed to exist for the time being.
Vert very close to that potential duel with Mute sitting around the corner here, but still seeing utility being set up, so that will not end up actually leaning into a duel for quite some time, more than likely, as we're only a minute into this actual round. OXG still focused very much on the intel game, especially when it comes to the basement setup right now, just because that's always the biggest obscurity. You've got to watch for where nitro cells may be getting tossed, or more importantly, where you may be getting swung from in the event that you're trying to actually take basement control, which may be in the cards here for Oxygen. It's still being floated here, as a large majority of them are trying to push in from that direction. This is actually a pretty aggressive smoke. Should allow them to push pretty heavily onto the Mute, which is playing over in the other hallway. Foxay trying to trace out players through the wall, partially can't get it locked down, and Houghton so far has been able to deny any other efforts to work their way back in. Bio will start to change that, though, as he gets some great damage over onto Eclipse. Oh no! A nitro cell from Houghton will accidentally take down Skies. Foxay gets 2 more as well, and just like that, DarkZero have crumbled. Everything's on hyper. He does have a top-down angle here. He's going to move in, see if he gets lucky finding any players for free, but no, he will get destroyed on the drop-down as Foxay seals the deal on his 3rd, and Oxygen finally take a round.
Yeah, this split site, not the most fun to defend, and that's exactly how it's going to go down for DarkZero. Oxygen with a nice adjustment. Instead of going for the top clear that they've been doing for most of the time between these two maps and throughout the day, they instead go directly towards site. They hold the mid floor so that rotations can't happen and, no resurgence of defenders can go downstairs to assist their comrades. Instead, they lock it down, force themselves in from Garage as well as Piano, and push their way across the entire map, as well as utilizing Ash in a very strong way inside of Stock. That's something that we haven't seen done from any of these squads in recent history, at least to my memory. A lot of the times, that's one of the areas that we see the defenders hold on to most, simply because they need it for nitro cell pressure from the Pulse. So for Oxygen to be able to barrel their way into storage and take over that entire bottom floor, very well done from them, and one of the best rounds that they've had all day.
All right, so we've completed the first roundabout on the sites here. We begin to unlock the already won sites for DarkZero, because now they'll have the option to go back down into lobby and will immediately take it, seeing as things went pretty well for them last time they played onto this site. Although I imagine the success will be immediately repeatable, considering Oxygen's interesting strategy that they brought to the table the last time the site was played. So I doubt we'll see that strategy again from Oxygen. You can expect a bit of a longer round this time for this site.
Okay, well, we'll see if this is still going to be as awkward as it was the last time, right? So... Oh, we could have an early kill. Hotney was trying to kill Foxay, then Vert runs right into the bullet. You're not supposed to run into the bullets, Vert. You're supposed to run away. But he dies anyways. So now Vert off the board. Foxay, the other soft destruction, he's very, very injured. I mean, he's already down past 75 HP, and when you're a 3-speed operator, that's practically 2 bullets. He's only got 2 bullets remaining left inside of that HP bar before somebody kills that man. And the sad thing is with Vert off the board, that's impacts, concussions, and possible breaching charges that they could use in order to make some magic happen. But it's Foxay instead, as he knows exactly what he needs to do. This round's already went sideways, so might as well add to the chaos. He's worked his way inside of bathroom, and it seems as though he wants to exist here for quite some time. Just going to continue to hold the angle as they're trying to put a plant down inside a bathroom. He swings through, but they've actually missed him on all fronts. Can he possibly get it? He can. Case control inside a Piano. Oxygen, what are you doing? You can't botch these. They've already set up the crossfire, but it's now done for DarkZero. They know where this case is. Oxygen has to try and force their way back into the building, but it's hot and cold all over the board. A triple kill for him. They know where Foxay is, and that's an M590 to the face. Foxay sits down, and DarkZero wraps up that round with a tight bow.
Oxygen are up against a wall, man. They had every advantage to start that out well, and unfortunately, the Jaeger on the other team, Hyper, I believe that was, making a beautiful play, a bit of a Hail Mary, ultimately, to be able to deny the planter, but it works. And then on top of that, he knows he's still a dead man in that corner that he remained in after he picked up the kill. So he says, you know what? I'm just going to do something really crazy. I'm going to jump out the window, and by some miracle, I'm also going to get 2 more kills. Really impressive stuff right there. Very deserving of a 1 round from DarkZero. And Oxygen just has to try and find a way to solidify their attacks here. They seem to be falling apart. I don't know if it's the extended play that they've had to suffer through today. I don't know if it's just DarkZero getting the better of them, but Oxygen should not be losing control of situations like that.
No, absolutely not. And that's going to be a massive problem for them going into the future. Oxygen has always been a team that we've put a lot of faith into. Multiple veterans on this team, and especially Bio within recent history making a huge standout performance as an IGL, as well as today having a highlight day for his career, especially with this squad. So for now, they're slowing down, and it doesn't seem to be any, form of bounce back. The team really isn't making adjustments. We're not seeing new operators presented. It's, again, lack of a better term, it's basically just running your head into the same wall over and over again. DarkZero continue to innovate and be bright, while Oxygen are being very dim.
And are very quickly being extinguished, it seems, here too. If the tides don't change relatively soon, Oxygen now only 4 rounds away from elimination here at the November Major. Gonna look to see if they can prevent that. Also, away, just 4 rounds away from elimination from their guaranteed slot at SI. That's another thing that Oxygen are potentially playing for within this series too. That needs to be very importantly considered. Now, it absolutely does not mean that they are out of the running. In fact, they're still very much in the running, but their position is no longer secured if they lose this match.
No, not at all. As well as they end up getting kicked out right now. I mean, all the SI points that they could possibly get from this event, which could change up anything inside of those standings. That's a very big problem. We heard that get talked about quite a bit on the analyst desk, so make sure you guys are paying attention to that throughout the weekend. Those SI points can change up who's going and who's not next year. DarkZero, though, still with a very strong front here on defense. Hyper getting taken down early, and that changes up a lot. The rest of DarkZero haven't necessarily been hot, well, all except for hot and cold. He's no longer cold or cold. He's more lukewarm and pretty cheesy, to be honest with you. 5-2 and 2. Seems as though the microwave cooked him just long enough.
So initially a good start here for Oxygen. Foxay once again getting the opening frag. He's oftentimes been doing that and opening up these opportunities for Oxygen where no one else has unfortunately been able to deliver that as of yet. We're going to need to see the rest of the team pick it up here now as we enter the final half of the round. Bio just kind of making the rotation job a little bit easier if they need to get into these positions quickly, but also opening up quite a few of these top-down angles. Important to note, of course, the roam game has not been dealt with yet, but there's Fox yet again finding this incredibly important impact for the team right now, dealing with the roam game. He's got drone support to try and find out the mute sitting in the backside as well. Although a little bit of delay on that, and Eclipse just doesn't even want the fight versus Fox. He's decided it's not worth it given that they're in a 3v5. He's going to fall back and play into the basement.
Iron Maiden made a great song about this. It's called Run to the Hills, and that's exactly what that man's doing right there. Make sure he gets down in sight, and they need to make sure that he exists for the rest of the time. Eclipse and Mint are the ones that can really put a hurting on this plant with their utility, hot and cold in tow as well with this Alda, and he's got a masterful setup here. They just need to worry about the Locker's hallway, but it seems as though OXG aren't going to put any pressure on that. So he should be allowed to exist, but no, Slash with the pre-fire. They got good intel on that, but the plant's starting off now. Is it going to get Slash off, though? It's not. Wide swing here, and it's not going to be enough damage dealt in order to stop anything. Eclipse dies, laxing quick to the second frag, and Oxygen claim a flawless round here on round 5.
The rounds that have been won here by OXG have been relatively convincing if you include the basement hold as well, or if you include the split hold that I believe they were able to take control of for themselves. It's a bit few and far between, but if they can piece together this third round, the 2 rounds itself is already definitely something they can work off of, but if they can make this a 3-3, definitely some good omens for them to try and get back into this and really start swinging it in the other direction.
Well, Oxygen, as you said, it might be few and far between, but at least there's something there as opposed to what we saw in Cafe. They've already matched the exact same amount of rounds that they had on Cafe when the game was done and over. inside of their offensive side. That's a very big change up here. Obviously, like we were talking about before, Oxygen really aren't innovating inside of their operator lineups, but it seems to be working for them. They've adjusted their playstyle in other places, specifically with dealing with these roamers for DarkZero, and that's the thing that matters most. They're putting a lot of concentrated effort into making sure that Hyper can't be impactful, especially inside of that last round, and that was a differentiating factor for them. As long as Oxygen's able to be consistent with that, well, they'll need to be consistent with it this last round at least. They could possibly equalize this.
Well, let's see if that's going to be the case. It's another basement hold here from the DarkZero roster. Early round has been a bit of a problem for DarkZero, especially as of the last couple of rounds. Foxay, I should say, has been a real issue for them in the early round because his entry capability has been unmatched, at minimum by anyone else on his team, and I would argue to say anyone else on DarkZero at this point. That's been a big piece of how Oxygen have been able to get quite a few of these rounds started, including the ones that were won on top of the few that were also relatively close. It's often been built off of his initial frags. So we'll see if that'll once again be a factor, or if other members of the team can also get a piece of the action this time too.
Well, so far, DarkZero still waiting on Oxygen to enter the building here. Obviously, things are going pretty slow as we would expect early on. Oxygen's going to dedicate a lot of drones. They need to worry about that roaming, as we said prior. But the things to talk about right now is what DarkZero is doing with this roam game. This is something that we haven't seen them dedicate at least a clips to inside of the bathroom here. So DarkZero are going to have to find some means for some picks here. Otherwise, Oxygen more than likely going to be able to bully them out of this situation, especially if they can get top control. They got that top control. They could put Sledge to good use to lock down a lot of these angles and make these engagements so much easier for the offensive side. Although Oxygen not really having a good read on the situation as these drones begin to dwindle, but nothing too crazy just yet.
That's what we found out by a drone. Nothing too scary with that happening, though. That's pretty much an inevitability more than anything. However, it is going to be enough to scare away any initial pressure from waxing there by the front door. The rest of the team is focused pretty heavily on trying to get access to the inside of the garage, and while yes, they'll be able to deal with that mute jammer initially, there's also going to be a nice impact that's thrown out that deals with the Selma, at least the one that's on the extreme side here. I'll try to do this once again when he sees another one. There we go, and there you go as well. That destroys the Selma. Only one's gonna go through, and remember, they're smaller than they used to be, so they only have that extreme right side access for the attackers right now.
This is such a difficult situation here for Oxygen to try and win out, John. They have no vertical play, nothing going on upstairs, and they only have 3 drones that remain. They're trying to get some intel. Foxy's trying to make a play on the backside. This is what they need. If Foxy's able to get some picks, Oxygen can apply pressure to the front side, and they would more than likely win out the situation. They got good drone intel on this Z-ping. They take down Hyper, big frag, but Mint fires back. They now know that Foxy's back here, and they've got barricades up for sound cues as well, so this doesn't really gather Oxygen anything extra than what they once had. DarkZero still allowed to exist inside of sight. Foxy still trying to apply this pressure, but they really haven't found another means in order to get anyone downstairs. Eclipse still playing inside of bathroom as well. So for Oxygen, it's a single front attack as they've shut down every other means for Oxygen to try and fight their way in. But finally, Foxy from the back end gets the double kill. That was needed. Bio's adjusting. Doesn't have case control though. The case is actually down inside of the hallway right outside of kitchen. Oxygen need to pick this up and try and go for a plant. Laxing's here, but the adjustments need to come now. Do they know that the case has been down, though? It seems as though they do. Hot and ready to pre-fire through on the timer. Did he get inside? He did, but Fox, not enough bullets, not enough time. He wishes he had it, but he definitely didn't. DarkZero, 4-2 at the split.
And even in that situation there, even if he had got the plant down onto the ground, his opponents were right around the corner. Just would have been within their capability to actually spot that or not. Would have decided whether they would have been able to swing in time, and they would have spotted it as it would have gone below 0 timer. So very unfortunate there for OXG. Like I was talking about before, Foxay gets them started out well again with that back flank, but the rest of the team unable to translate anything else. So the round has dropped. DZ get 4 rounds on defense here. Now they jump on to attack, and we have to see what OXG's defense will look like. They'll start out in the basement as well.
That's just very, very difficult for Oxygen. They haven't had a solid offensive half this entire day. The maximum amount of rounds, the maximum amount of rounds that Oxygen have gotten on their offenses is 2. That's it. So like that's a very, very big deal. Granted, like obviously things tend to trend towards the defensive side, but that still is a very, very big deal. Oxygen not really making, making things matter when they need to. They've been strong on the defense, but when you give somebody such a good head start, it's very difficult to catch up.
So let's see if DarkZero is going to be able to capitalize on what has so far been a lackluster performance from a lot of the individual players on OXG within this map. Be able to break their way in relatively quickly here against the basement hold. Nothing crazy going on with the hold itself. Not going to be any major wrinkles or anything. It's important to note, of course, that there's no denial. We saw the same flare brought up by DarkZero in the previous half. And the reason for that is that it's really difficult to actually properly deny. Mainly that garage wall would be your primary focus from that. Just because of the way the meta has shifted here over the last few months. It's very easy for the attackers to get around it through a variety of methods. There's like 4 or 5 of them that I can think of just off the top of my head. We don't want to spend all day talking about it, so just take my word for it.
Okay, well, switching gears here on over to the offense and what DarkZero is bringing to the table, they've changed things up, and this looks completely different than what Oxygen had at their disposal. We are going to have Hyper on the Zofia. She's still going to be along for the ride, but could possibly have an early engagement here. Not going to happen just yet, though. But Yana, Buck, and IQ actually in tow with a Thermite. That's something we don't see happen too often, and it's really nice allocation of utility here from the offense. They still have the frag grenades because they brought the Yana, but now not only do they have more intel gathering, but they can get rid of Valkyrie cameras as well as track a lot of this utility that's powered by electricity on the defense. This is a really, really strong operator lineup from the offense. Specifically, last but not least, Sky's on that Buck, one of his most known operators, but Foxay with the early pick instead takes down Hyper.
Once again, first on the board overall in the round. He's been constantly doing that throughout the course of this matchup, and it seems it's going to remain true on the defense too, as he also picks up the first kill here. Has some support from Laxing on the inside here, and now they're going to try to fend off some of the vertical pressure that's being thrown against them. Foxay gets into that small engagement over on the stairs, but Sky's able to snipe out Laxing here, and now Tim and Eclipse going to be able to work together to move in. Actually, no, they didn't realize there was 2 up here. Foxay just a tap away on Sky's right there, as he's up to 3 in the round. Seems to be aware of the 4th here too. Primed in on it. Will they be able to take him down? Even if they do, there's another player coming to trade hot in a second. There's Slash to save the day, and he could even technically save Foxay here, but he more than likely doesn't need to. Mint's the last man standing in the 1v3, and he's got to try to find some way to battle out of here, but I don't know if he can.
Honestly? All right, Foxay. Oh my goodness, you could never expect anything else out of Oxygen. Every single time that I was like, everything's gonna be okay. Oxygen's playing today. There's always some clown activity going on. OXG. I love these guys though. Their play style is something that is just so awesome to view. I mean, these guys right now so dominant so far. Mint trying to just really dwindle down the time. They're just using this as a makeshift timeout. So we'll use this time to discuss back and forth really what went wrong there for DarkZero. They couldn't get an entry into the building simply because all of their drones went immediately to the slaughter. There was nothing really else that happened with their intel gathering. Even with Yana in play, they still didn't have an impact on that front. Therefore, when they go swinging their way into admin, you're going to die. Vigil allowed to exist in there. Foxay with a big triple kill that changed up how that entire round was going to go, simply because he was allowed to exist inside of admin longer than he was supposed to.
If we see OXG bounce back and get into this to take map number 2 here, they owe Foxay to such a huge degree. This has all been the Foxay show from anything that came from OXG so far in this map. He has 2 more kills right now than the combined total of the rest of his teammates, just to give you an idea for how much impact he's had just in the fragging department.
And also just to put this out there, just off of my knowledge, I'm pretty sure that Consulate is one of Foxay's most impactful maps. We don't really track that, but every single time that this man goes to Consulate, he acts up. And he acts up in a big way. Like, as you said right now, 12, 1, and 4. If there is a lifeblood of Oxygen, it is running through Foxay right now.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, his teammates have 10 combined right now. So he's outpacing the entire rest of his team in kills, even when you combine them together. So that's some impressive stuff, needless to say. And even away from that, though, it does speak to the issues that they were having just getting a footing going on their attack. They couldn't get anything else really set up for them besides their entry. However, it doesn't seem to be much of an issue here on defense when Foxy is able to take on every single player by himself. So we'll see if he's going to be able to chain those together in future rounds too.
It seems as though they want to continue the aggression. I mean, they head towards split. They throw Slash on Doc. This is all semblance of something where aggression's going to happen. I'll have to see if Slash can get some early picks here, as though it seems as his existence is dedicated to yellow stairs. He's got 2 ADSs, and I really like this for his kit, actually. Slash can contest his window as well as take a couple of gunfights, as well as assist with long hallway, not only with the comfort of ADSs, but also allowing himself to heal in between gunfights. That's a huge change if, you know, DarkZero try to take that top floor. He can consistently assist his teammates.
So Vert will be on the CEO windows here, preventing those repels from being successful. First EE1D is also out now, so 2 remain. And Eclipse's Arsenal to try and use later on here. One player's going to get spotted out. We have a nice camera here that's chucked outside. It's a little bit obscured by that lower lip on the sidewalk there, but for the most part they can see everything they need to see. They can spot the repels. They know generally where the positions of the DarkZero aggression is going to come from, and that's a lot of useful intel to play off of, both in the early round and the mid round, as you know more than likely where the pinpoints that your attackers are trying to use are going to be.
Uh-oh, we're having more impacts from Foxy early on, Blue. Even with the Dokkaebi calls and the EE1Ds coming in, DarkZero can't seem to fight back this absolute demon, as he's still allowed to exist upstairs. Hot and Cold and the rest of the squad, though, need to try and find some entries here, as they're actually going to get the initial one down onto Slash. Nice pick up there. Still have Mint as well, who's, currently in a gunfight with Vertical, dipping back and forth as he finally finds the safety inside of Break, but not before Vertical actually gets a kill of his own. These kills slowly trickling in.
Bit of a peaceful moment within the middle of this round here as DarkZero withdraws. Now without the advantage to play off of here, and tries to figure out what the best course of action is going to be to try to take control, because Foxy and even the additional roam game coming in from players like Vertical now on the second floor has not been stopped. They can't deal with it. Their last phone call is going to come out here as they try to gather intel on these players once again. Hotten's still desperately hunting at low HP for something to pick up here, but has been unable to find it. Those roamers still maintaining positions, although finally starting to move back down now that the timer has essentially reached 0, but not Foxy. Foxy's going to continue to maintain his current position, although finally bested there by Mint. However, it's a small gesture. Maybe not. Hot and Cold finds other picks. Skies as well.
No!
Potentially going to get revived. The drop down from Mint is at perfect timing as it allows them to down another player. Plant should go down. The only question is, are they watching the piano flag? No, he just got to wait this out. This is so perfect from Vert. The trigger discipline is amazing. Just runs away. Nitro Cell as well. Pops that for another kill. It's the clutch from Vert as Skies has the wrong info. He's chasing him the wrong way. Oxygen steal that round right out of the hands of DarkZero.
Don't play 4-3, folks. There you go. That's my advice. No, actually, in all seriousness, there's probably no way that he could have seen that guy on the staircase. Yeah, that was, but overall, I mean, wow, what a play there from Vertical. I mean, not only the trigger discipline, but knowing exactly when on count to shoot him in the head. I mean, the case is at less than a second till it's planted, and he ends up just killing him, sprints downstairs, sends the Nitro Cell Hail Mary just for good measure as well, and picks up another kill on top of that. This is what Oxygen needs to bounce back into this fight. Consulate is looking a lot more LATAM style with them on defense.
Things will start out great in the second half for Oxygen. A beautiful clutch coming in there. Be able to reignite their capability to win this match. It's over to the split site next, where obviously the difficulty will increase tremendously here. However, will the capability of the attackers to take control of this one? Let's find out if DarkZero can finally find some footing to work off of here now within the second half, because at the moment it's been all Oxygen all day.
Yes, indeed. Pretty interesting setup here for Oxygen on their defense as well. We actually don't have nearly as many Nitro Cells as we're used to having on the split site. A lot more impacts, though. We have 3 sets of impacts amongst these Oxygen members. Weirdest operator coming in being Foxy. Seems as though he wants to get aggressive early on this Rook. But, I mean, with Rook here, I mean, they're only really going to have options of making some very awkward rotates later into the game. So we'll have to see how Foxy wants to utilize Rook rather than just the obvious one being his MP5 with that 1.5 times scope.
going to be pretty passive here at the beginning of the round. No initial aggression really coming out for DarkZero. We may see that change relatively quickly, though. One, because of this player holding on pipes. I'm pretty sure that that's Fox again. Oh, no, Bio's actually picked up the Malusi this time. So Bio going to be holding here on top of the pipes. He has been spotted out by a drone. Tries to hunt it down for a moment there. Knows he's got the Banshee right around the corner here, too. So doesn't have to worry too much about the drone spotting because obviously the garage hasn't been opened up just yet. He's still hunting for that drone, so he goes down into the depths of the garage pit to look for it. Mint has info on the Vigil, and the Vigil nearly runs right over to the Jackal, but thankfully is just repositioning to get over towards those Visa stairs there. Relaxing will be able to escape and maintain the position in the basement.
Now, Oxygen's not giving up anything for free. They're going to make DarkZero work for it, and that's why we continue to see them go on these, you know, rotation proclamations or what have you, and continually go around the entire map, and it's working out super well for them. I mean, Oxygen continue to have large impacts on these realms, so DarkZero just trying to, you know, put the cat in the bag at this point, try and get a net over it or something, because they continue to just hop out of windows and deal damage in very weird ways to DZ. But now some phone calls in here from Skies. They don't have the Lion anymore, but they definitely do still have that Jackal in tow. They've brought IQ along for the ride, as well as that Maverick and Ash. So still some pretty close semblance to what we saw from DarkZero previously, but they need these impacts early, these impact frags early on here to try and work their way towards split. They've got some decent map control now as they force Oxygen downstairs, and since Oxygen doesn't have very many nitro cells, this could change up a lot of things. Houghton trying to bait for any nitro cells down low, but I don't know if they have any intel at all on what's going on inside of here. They're trying to force their way up spiral right now as Skies is going to lock things down. Slash ends up with a frag, but it doesn't seem as though any of the rest of DarkZero's at home. Skies has to deal with this entire situation by himself. What in God's name is happening to DarkZero? They're completely across the map trying to put a case down, and this is looking like a flawless round. All of a sudden, you thought Oxygen had it, but definitely not the case. Hyper's going to get one, but there's a long road ahead of him.
Still 4 additional players to take out, most of them barely injured as well, with Vertical being the really only exception to that. Nothing free being given to Hyper here, just trying to pre-fire into a couple positions downstairs, but again, nothing to be found here. Peek onto the stairwell. They'll actually trade each other. It's a nice shot from Hyper, but it's nowhere near enough to get the W here. So OXG with a near flawless round up until it got down to the 5v1. We'll see them come out on top, as well as we'll see Bio just spraying into a corpse there on the replay cam for some reason. But either way, that is going to be a 5-4 scoreline. DarkZero will call for a timeout in the chat, as I'm sure you guys just saw. So we will give them a moment to figure out this absolute chaos that OXG is throwing at DZ, especially on that previous round.
They've really got him off kilter, John. I mean, that last round especially, we're trying to put a case down, and we don't even have the people here in order to handle this situation. They don't have benches locked down, nothing holding spiral. I mean, there were so many things going wrong for DarkZero there. They just weren't on the same page, and that's exactly why this timeout came in. They need to resync and make sure that they know what everyone is doing. You can't have multiple DarkZero members all the way, you know, across God's green earth at yellow stairs while you're trying to put a case down inside of tellers. That just doesn't work. It does not work. Not enough, you know, not enough of a man count to equalize with what Oxygen is throwing at you. You're trying to have Skies handle, you know, a 1 versus 3, well, makeshift 1 versus 3, all by his lonesome with an SMG 12. That's never going to work out well.
All right, folks. Well, time is over for figuring out what's been going wrong. It's time to do some things right for DZ here if they still have hope of closing things out here on map number 2. If not, OXG is rocketing towards a third map. And this is an impressive rebound from OXG when you consider some of the very unfortunate rounds that they were going up against. It definitely had the appearance, at least, as though OXG were starting to get a little bit winded, a little bit discouraged about the rest of this match, that they might have not been able to put up a fight. But that assumption was clearly wrong. They've bounced back to a massive degree, being springboarded by the individual plays that came out from Fox a couple rounds ago. And ever since then, it seems to have not stopped. And now they have the lead against DarkZero, who still needs those 3 additional rounds to close this out in 2-0 fashion.
Not only that, but they have it on their map. That's the thing. Oxygen taking it to DarkZero on what, you know, we usually say is a very calculated roster. And obviously they still are. They're, you know, making things happen, adjusting inside of their operator lineups, as well as what they're bringing to the table per round. There's a lot of really good things happening for DarkZero, but Oxygen have just sheerly willed this into existence. There's nothing more to it than that. We've seen some, weird things here and there, but this is the round where they've really opened things up. This is going to be the first time that we see like some heavy anchors come in, something like the Clash here for Biologic. So we'll see if Bio can try and make some magic happen here. Otherwise, it's been really aggressive fronts from Oxygen across the board from their roamers, and just more of a, Bueller's day off for the site players.
So DarkZero out on the attack once again. I'll have to figure out going up against the basement attack here, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. They've done that. We've got Oxygen's roamers that are going to be next up to bat here for DarkZero to deal with. And that's arguably probably the scariest part of this round, is the part that DarkZero really hasn't been able to get past as of yet in the 3 rounds that have been played out. So time to see it here. We got players moving into the building. Hyper, first off here, he takes free admin control. It's actually kind of surprised that that's not being resisted, considering you've got guys like Slash over here on Spiral. But there's setup. Well, let's see what Slash is going to be able to do now that he knows he's got some aggression coming in from Copier right behind him.
DarkZero back to the drones. Still have Mint here as well to assist with those Jackal tracks, but not going to make anything of it. Slash is quickly going to dip out of long haul. Does not want anything to do with that, and you can't blame him at all. DarkZero throwing everything at him. He actually might have a frag just by putting his nose where it's not supposed to be. Bags himself a Skies, puts that one in the back pocket, and no more phone calls coming in.
So once again, early advantage over to OXG. 5v4 for them to build off of here. A lot for DarkZero to work their way past. We've got the Clash Bio just literally standing at yellow door, and probably no immediate changes to that plan. Hot and Cold's trying to bait him out because he knows his teammates are in a position in the hallway right behind it. But the problem is they can also send some aggression out against Hot and Cold, and it's going to work. Slash will take a lot of damage. Don't get me wrong, but Slash wins out the fight. Types in chat. To be fair, though, he's also going to get smoked on the rebound there as we see a trade coming back in. Now the attackers, though, down to only 2 with those 2 kills. Yes, it's opened up the beginning of something, but the beginning of what? That's the question. Is it just a passing glance that these 2 kills will get them? Or is it truly the beginning of a comeback here? Now a 2v3.
Well, some of the most instant karma I've ever seen in Rainbow Six, by the way. That was damn near instantaneous. So Hyper as well as Eclipse trying to clutch things out here. This is a desperate round for them as well. Laxing playing close with the M590, and this is going to be difficult for Hyper to deal with overall. Even with that concussion, more than likely going to lose this just because the M590 is so good inside of those close range engagements. Eclipse able to get 1, but he's going to need more than that in order to close this round out. Doesn't even know if he has anybody pressuring backside. It doesn't even matter. Laxing works a bomb chassis to perfection, and OXG are making defense look quite easy.
They'll push up to map point here now. 1 more away from triggering the 3rd and final map on Clubhouse. Time to see if they can do it. Like I said, a massive rocket ship comeback here from Oxygen has nearly won them the 2nd map. Now it's time for DZ. Like I said, there needs to be a response if they want to close this out here, and that response has to happen now. They still have the 1st map under their belt, so obviously not at risk of being eliminated just yet, but pressure's going to be put on them over on Clubhouse. That will be our 3rd map that we'll have to go to here if Oxygen's able to claim yet another one for themselves.
This has to be very, very frustrating for DarkZero, but it honestly makes a lot of sense when you apply the way that Oxygen thinks about Rainbow Six, or just their play style towards Consulate and how they're playing these defenses now. I mean, we're having a 6 pick away from a Maestro, which is one of the most used defenders in the entire game, simply so that Fox can get Valkyrie. Obviously an extremely impactful character, and Fox has been lighting up the scoreboard with her throughout this entire map so far, but the only person that you can even say, oh, well, they're truly just an anchor operator on this lineup is Bio on Smoke. And even then, Bio gets extremely aggressive on this operator for OXG. So with a map like Consulate, they're able to find a lot of avenues that you wouldn't traditionally have on other maps. This map is really heavy on that roam game, especially when you can get the picks early on like we've seen Oxygen do. You can snowball so well on this map, and that's why it's difficult for offenses to try and get back into it. Not only do you have 3 staircases to worry about, but no matter what, when you peek inside of a room, you're going to have 10 angles on top of that. You have to worry about pressure from all of these windows, because obviously those work both ways, John. And I'll say it for him, Smoked.
And Slash is doubling down on this as well, even though the last one led to his death.
It would have been hilarious if he just died through a wall right there,
I was waiting for the return. He was sitting and vending, I think, too. Oh no, there it is! Come on, Slash! You have to realize what you've done to yourself.
Oh, man.
Well, didn't see that one coming. Down into a 4v4 here now. DarkZero back in this fight, but are they really? That's the question here now. Once more, that kill happens literally at the start of the round. The trade happens pretty quickly too. This is all on the outside of the building. So these kills, although it's brought us down to a 4v4, means very little about the grand scheme of this round, as DarkZero has yet to even poke open one of the windows at this point.
Okay, well, some pretty action-packed beginnings here for both of these squads. Slash getting taken down early as well as Skies, but Skies definitely going to be the most impactful out of those two. Skeleton Key off the board, no more verticality to try and work into this site. It's going to be all on the breaching rounds of Hyper to try and make something happen in that department. Hot and Cold is now swinging inside of console office. They have control of the west side of the top floor, but nothing past long hallway here. The long desk still has vertical living inside of it. Banshee in tow as well, as he continually tries to take these gunfights, but he's already had his Oxygen member back off. They're doing such a good job of respecting this clock and forcing DarkZero down on timer.
A little over 1 minute remaining for DarkZero to get their plant started. At a minimum here, Hyper definitely hears the footsteps of a player right on the other edge, and apparently Vertical sees it as he takes a couple shots over by the connector. Neither player going to be able to connect onto anything at this point, however, so we still stay locked into a 4v4. The little bits of pressure from Oxygen is one of the biggest issues here that DarkZero have had to go up against too, just because it's so few and far between, and it seems so random that it's really hard to predict. It's really hard to isolate, and as you can see here, it's really hard to fight against. Two of their players go down. A lot of the hope on this round on Hyper and Mint to make a play and clear out the bathroom. Hyper gets it done all on his own. Now Mint needs to hold the line on the flank. He does it, knocking out Foxay. Vertil hop back down, looking for the trade over onto the Yana, but he's not going to be able to find it. Plant should go down for Hyper, and he'll have excess time to get into position as Vertical's giving it to them right now. Vertil make the run. He knows the player went lower yellow, and there you go. Immediately deletes Mint. Knows exactly where Hyper went to, and remember, Hyper's an incredibly low HP. He tries to make the swing, but no! Vertical wins it out again, and Oxygen take map number 2.
That is 5 defensive rounds in a row for OXG and Vertical with an amazing flick to shut down Hyper. Hyper had the outplay as well. He had the timing. He outthought Vertical, but he couldn't out-mechanically skill him. What